say like, no, 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 Harper, Tamaro, Sarno. All right, can everyone hear me? On the front and the back as well? Yeah. This is Pest! No, I'm joking. All right, everyone. Welcome to the future of Pest. My name is Nuno Maduro, and in case you don't know me, I am a Laravel core team member, and I have created multiple packages on the PHP ecosystem, such as OpenAI for PHP, Pest PHP, Laravel Zero, Collision, PHP Insights, Termwin, and more. Today, we are here to speak about Pest PHP. And if you don't know Pest PHP, it's an elegant PHP testing framework with a focus on simplicity. And it is damn simple. In fact, we have released Pest nearly 2 years ago, and since then, we have become the second most popular PHP testing framework in the world. So just because of that, I want a round of applause. Now, about today. For the first 10 minutes of this talk, I'm going to make you a brief introduction about what Pest V1 is. And for the next 20 minutes, I'm going to show you the brand new and cool stuff coming for Pest V2. So that being said, that's enough about slides today. Let's jump into some live code. Now, on my left, I have my editor. On my right, I have my terminal. Now, as you know, this is what ships with Laravel by default. It's a framework called PHPUnit, and pretty much looks like this. In order to have a test, you need to have a namespace and a bunch of uses, a class that extends something, and then you have a trait with an annotation with a public function to actually see your first test. Now, when I run this on the terminal, this is the output that you get. I run vendor bin PHPUnit, and this is what you get to see on the terminal. PHPUnit 10, done by Sebastian, a runtime, a configuration, so a bunch of stuff that I don't really care. Now, let me show you the difference between this, what you just have seen, and Pest PHP. To get started, the only thing I have to do is come to my terminal and type composer require pest php/pest. Once I run this command, the only thing I have to do now is type vendor bin pest. Now, a couple of things we can understand immediately. The first one is that Pest PHP just works on top of existing PHPUnit tests. And on top of that, we have a very different output. I would say a better output, more pretty. As you can see, it's spaced top, bottom, left, and right. We also have a passing green label here, meaning that this specific test is passing. We have the count of tests and its duration. Now, coming for Pest V2, we are bringing two new things to this output. The first one is the duration, which you can see here on the right. It might be useful for profiling purposes. And then we also get to see the number of assertions, which is something people will really ask you for Pest V2. Now, when the output is successful, we actually have a great, we get to see this different output. However, I would like to show you the difference when you have a failure. So I'm going to clear my terminal right here, and I'm going to get back into my test. Now, this test is very simple. We are simply creating a post on my website with a message Laracon India. Later on, when I get all posts, I expect to have status 200, and second, I expect to have a status 200, and I expect to see the Laracon India message on my list of posts. So let's make this test fail by expect to see Laracon US. So I'm going to clear my terminal, run vendor bin PHPUnit, and let's see what we get on the terminal. Now this is what PHPUnit have to tell you. It's pretty much printing all the response coming from Laravel. It's not clear what's happening. And if I scroll all the way down to the bottom, I get to see that somehow the message coming from Laravel was supposed to have the message Laracon US. So PHPUnit is trying to tell me that this specific test is failing. Now let me show you the difference between this and Pest PHP. So I'm going to clear my terminal and run the same test, but now with Pest. Now, a couple of things here. The first one is that Pest comes with this code snippet that really points you to the right direction. I get to see that my test is failing because we are supposed to see the message Laracon US. In addition, because the response coming from Laravel is just too big to understand, I get this truncated message that doesn't really get on my way. So it's super clear why my test is failing. Now, I'm going to clear my terminal, make my test pass with the message Laracon India, and I'd like to show you that besides the output, Pest PHP has so much to offer. The first thing is the way of writing tests. Now, PHPUnit comes with this class-based approach of writing tests, which is by definition, you have to write all this boilerplate, namespaces, classes, extends, all of these things that just keep boilerplate in your Sublime text. Now, I'd like to show you the difference between this and the API that you get with Pest to write tests. So, in order to convert this test into a Pest test, the only thing you have to do, check this out, is copy-paste the content of your test, which I'm going to copy it, just like that, and then I'm going to remove all of this boilerplate. No public functions, no trait, no classes, no uses, no namespaces, nothing. And when you get here, the only thing you have to type is really it can be listed, it has a closure, and you copy-paste the content of your test inside of it. Once you do this, you can now run Pest on the terminal, and you get to see exactly the same result as before. Thank you. So 11 lines right here are the equivalent to 24 lines on PHPUnit, which is exactly half of the lines. So, and if you think that you are losing some features by changing to this API, that it's not true. So I'm going to just show you here, for example, if I just wish to skip this test, the only thing I have to do here is just skip like this, just chaining, and everything just works in the same way. So here I get to see that my test is skipped. Other feature that people love in PHPUnit is something called data providers. Now, for those who don't know, data providers is basically a way of running the same test multiple times with different information. So here, looking at this test, I probably would like to make this test dynamic, kind of running with Laracon India and then with Laracon US. So something I can do with Pest is use something called data providers, which is basically works like this. It can be listed with Laracon India and Laracon US. And now I can make this test dynamic by simply receiving this message argument right here, which is the first time Laracon India, the second time Laracon US, and I can just create the post with that message, and of course, assert to see that message on the list of posts. So now I'm going to clear the terminal, run Pest, and now I get to see right here on the terminal that my Pest test is running the first time, as you can see, with Laracon India, and the second time with Laracon US, which is exactly the same API. It gives you pretty much the same result. Now, today we are here to speak about Pest V2 and all the cool things coming for Pest V2. So if you'd like to know more about Pest V1 and about what Pest V1 have to offer, go to pestphp.com, and we have a great documentation here that you can follow. Now, let's move on to the second part of this talk, which is talking a little bit what is coming new for Pest V2. And that first new thing coming is the possibility of having to-dos in your test suite. Now, sometimes I'm creating a new test, and that test is not risky, it's not incomplete, it's not whatever, it's basically a to-do, something that I need to complete in my project, or some test that I need to perform later. So with Pest V2, we are bringing that to your test suite. Let me show you how it looks like. So I'm gonna get back into my Sublime text, and let's imagine for a second, right here on the bottom, that I want to create a new test for when posts can be created. And again, I kind of have to create this test or have to do this feature, but it's still a to-do. So the only thing I have to do for Pest V2 is just chain this method to-do, just like that. And now, if I run Pest on my terminal, I get this output. Just pretty much the same thing as before, but now we have this passing label with a blue background. I get to see as well that I have one to do on my test suite, and on the list of recap, I get to see that I have one to do. So coming from Pest V2, the possibilities of creating to-dos, and I forgot to say, we have this great option, call it to-dos, -- to-dos option, and get to see all the to-dos in your project right in your test suite. Thank you for that round of applause. It really pumps me up. It's pretty cool. All right. Now, I want to talk a little bit about plugins on Pest. Plugins on Pest have been fundamental to keep the framework small, while the community, or even ourselves, develop these optional features that people can't require through Composer. One of the most popular plugins on Pest is the possibility of checking the coverage right in your terminal. So I can do something like vendor bin pest, and then just chain -- covered, and I get to see all the coverage right on my terminal. So don't, yeah, no HTML, no external files, no import or whatever, it just gets displayed on the terminal. It really just works, and people are really excited about this plugin. Now, another plugin that I'm really proud of is the Watch plugin. I don't know if you noticed the quantity of times we had to run Pest each time we changed something in our project. It wouldn't be cool if we had something like that can watch our changes and just rerun Pest each time. Well, with Pest V1 we also have that. We can simply just type vendor bin pest and just pass this option watch. Now, the test suite will run once. However, if I just come here and change this 200 to 300 to make the test fail, I'm going to save it. Pest just reruns automatically. I can just roll back, and bam, we have the test suite just running automatically. Yeah. So again, plugins like this have been fundamental in Pest to really keep the framework, the core, really small and elegant, and we have the community develop these plugins which make the ecosystem really rich. Now, for Pest V2, I really wanted to develop something big, a brand new plugin that would make the community of testing really proud of, and today I would like to show you and announce this brand new plugin. So for Pest V2, we are introducing this new architectural plugin, which is the ultimate tool for writing architectural rules in your project. Now, before demo to you in a real life project, this new plugin, I'd like to explain a little bit the context and the history of this plugin. As you may know, I developed multiple Laravel projects during my career, and something I have noticed about Laravel projects, but about software in general, is that projects lack of consistency over time, something we call legacy code. So I have noticed that during the time, because teams change, people change, the code style just gets inconsistency. Architectural rules are inconsistency. Sometimes you are dispatching jobs from the controller, sometimes you are dispatching jobs from the models. It's just a total mess. And I would like to show you an example right here on the project that I have created. So we are going to back into my editor, and as you can see, here in this test, I'm basically testing if all the posts that I have created can be listed. So we have a controller that is answering to this test. So let's jump into that controller. I'm going to open my app, HTTP controllers post controller. Now, this post controller looks very basic. It's pretty much raw Laravel. As you can see, we have an index method, which is basically returning a view with all posts, so pretty basic stuff. And then just below we have the store method. Now, the store method is very basic. The only thing we are doing is receiving this request global class of Laravel, and then just below we can see that we are validating the request directly on the controller. Now, this line is already questionable because there is multiple ways of doing something like this. As you can see, we are validating the data right here on the controller. However, some people, or even your team member, could say, why are you not using form request classes? And I have actually created this form request class in advance just to show you that I could actually be using this post store request to actually validate the data right here on this class. Now, if we get back into my post controller, you can see that just below I also have here a questionable decision. As we can see, we are creating posts directly on the controller and by using Laravel is models. Now, some people may say, well, that's okay, but it would be better if you have some class repository. So I'm going to open this class that I have created also in advance. It's not being used yet. However, I could be using this class or this layer of repositories to encapsulate every interaction I have with Laravel models. Now, as you can see, coding a feature that simply stores all posts in my database can be coded very differently. And over the years, people just find a lot of different styles in the same code base. Now, I'm okay with this particular way of writing code. What I'm not okay with, though, is going to a code base and find different styles everywhere. Going to a controller, see repositories and form request classes, and then jumping into another controller and see it coded this way. Yuck. Now, until today, people actually waste time. They go to pull request reviews, they pass the time discussing these things. You shouldn't be doing this way, but you should be using that way instead. Now, for Pest V2, we are fixing this problem. We actually have found a way of bringing all these discussions to zero downtime. You are starting discussing this directly in your test suite. You write tests for this, and then it's done, because your test suite will validate your architectural rules. So let me show you how it looks like. I'm going to get back into my editor, and I'm going to go to my test suite. You see this folder, feature tests, and I'm going to just create a new test, and I'm going to call this test archtest.php. I'm going to save this file and open, obviously, stop the watch. I'm going to open this file and just open the PHP tag. And let's imagine for a second that I just want to ensure that this request class of Laravel doesn't get used on controllers directly, and that people need to use form requests. So I can just go back into my Arch test. I can type something like this. Test controllers expect app HTTP controllers not to use illuminate HTTP. Sorry, I just closed my terminal, my Sublime text, just a second. Okay, we are back on the game. So again, test controllers expect app HTTP controllers not to use illuminate HTTP requests. I save it, bam, I go to my terminal, I run past, and I get to see this feedback on my terminal. Expecting app HTTP controllers not to use illuminate HTTP request. So just by writing one test, I'm ensuring that for the lifetime of my project, none of my projects will use this class directly on controllers. So I can get back into my post controller, and by definition, simply come here and type, okay, well, I cannot use this request class directly. I need to type something like a form request class. So post store request, then I cannot validate the data right here. I need to validate the data directly on my form request class. I can just remove the import on top, just save it, clear my terminal, run past, and now I get to see my test suite is passing with just one line. Now, we can apply this definition again on the post create method. So again, we are using models directly on controllers. This is questionable if you actually want to do this. So let's write a rule that forces the usage of repositories and also ensuring that models can only be used on repositories. So I'm going to get back into my architectural test and I'm going to type something that looks like this. Test models expect the app models layer to only be used on, check out this API is sexy, it's pretty cool. Test models expect app models to only be used on app repositories. I save it, I run past, and bam, I get immediately this feedback telling me that expecting the app models post not to be used on post controller. So with just one line, we just have ensured that models cannot be used on controllers, but also that can only be used on repositories. So I'm going to get back into my post repository. I'm going to fix this. I'm going to go to the top of this file and just create a new constructor where I can inject my repository. So public function, construct. Then I'm going to use property promotion of PHP 8 to basically inject this post repository, just like that. Bam, I'm going to open this bracket, leave my constructor empty, and finally I'm going to replace all the usage of my model directly on the controller by my posts repository, just like that. On top, I'm going to remove the import of the post, I'm going to save it, clear my terminal, run past, and we have an issue here. Excuse me? I didn't hear. Oh, of course, I'm injecting the form request. This is a post repository, huh? Jesus, that was scary. Okay, let's save the terminal, run past, and of course my test suite is passing. And again, we can move forward and really try to extend this couple of rules in my project. Something I really like about models is keep them really small. I like my models to not dispatch jobs, not interact with caching. Their only responsibility should be interact with an Illuminate database namespace. So something I can do here is just take a look at my model here, which is within app models post, ensure that indeed the only thing I need to do here is interact with my Illuminate database namespace, so I can get back to my architectural test and say, test models, expect app models to only use the Illuminate database namespace, bam, save it, run past, and I get to ensure that not only for now, but forever, my models layer only interact with the Illuminate database namespace, which is pretty cool. I can move forward here and test equally repositories. As I have shown you, repositories are very simple. Their only responsibility is interact with models only, and they should only be used on controllers. So something I can do about these repositories is just get back here and type something like test repositories, expect app repositories layer to only be used on app HTTP controllers, just like that, and then in the future to only use app models to really keep the repository layer really focused. I run my test suite, obviously it's passing, and with 2 minutes of live coding, I was able to ensure that there is no pull requests, discussions about this kind of topics, because everything is ensured on my test suite. So, as you can see, this plugin is highly useful for testing architectural rules, but it's also other cool stuff that you can do with this plugin that I would like to show you. So I'm going to go to the bottom of this file. Do you guys like the DD function from Laravel? It's the most cool thing on the planet, right? But it's like 2 lines of code. Now, what you don't like though is see DDs in production, right? It's kind of hard to when you ship a DD to production and then your boss complains. It happens to me on Vapor actually 2 weeks ago. So it wouldn't be cool if we could have Pest actually ensuring that no DDs will ever ship to production, like never again. Well, yeah. So The only thing you have to type to ensure this in the future, in like forever, is just come here and type test globals, expect dd dump and ray from spaCy, because why not? Not to be used. Bam. That's it. You run Pest. No DDs ever in production ever again, because Pest will just validate this kind of stuff. You guys want to see this in action? Let's see it in action. All right, I'm going to go to my post controller. Do you guys remember this store method, which is supposed to actually store posts on a database? We actually have a problem here, which is I actually have this test as a to-do. So there is no actually test validating this stuff. Meaning that I could potentially just come here and do something like DD request all, like our favorite DD ever. Just come here, DD request all, and this method in particular, remember, it's not being tested at all, because if I go to my post tests, I actually have this test as a to-do. Now, if I run Pest, thanks to my architectural test right here, which I have wrote once in my life, I don't have to look at it again, we now have Pest just saying, expecting DD not to be used on post controller. So no DDs ever again in production. I can go back here, oh, I cannot deploy this, I have a DD, I'm gonna simply remove it, run Pest, and bam, I have my test suite running again. So a pretty nice way of ensuring that no DDs will go to production ever again. Now, one last thing before we close this plugin, because I have a lot more to show you today, is that I know that not everyone starts a fresh Laravel application every day, even if we do it inside projects. In reality, in real-world projects, we have like some piece of legacy that we would like to ignore, or some particular rule that you would like to ignore certain times. So let me show you how you can do that on Pest. Who likes facades on Laravel? Everyone? Okay, that's cool. But some people don't, so it's a good example to show you that how can we ignore stuff with this plugin. So something I can do here, just type something like this. Test facades, expect the illuminate support facades namespace not to be used. Now, obviously, for people who want this, they will see this when they run Pest on the terminal. Expecting illuminate support facades rate limiter, so the rate limiter facade, not to be used on the route service provider. So even though I don't want that my project uses facades, they kind of come by default on Laravel, because if I go to my app providers, route service provider, I kind of have this route facade being used right here. I have, of course, the rate limiter facade, which is what Pest is complaining about. And these are facades that just come with Laravel by default. So I kind of would like to just wish to ignore the app providers folder. So how can you do that? Again, you just read it like test facades, expect the facades not to be used, ignoring the app providers folder. Okay, so you do this, you run Pest, and you get to see the successful message, because now we are ignoring the app providers folder. So it's super flexible. So I hope you guys are excited about this plugin, as I am, because I've worked on this for the last 3 months, and it's something really big coming for Pest V2, but we also have other stuff coming for Pest V2 that I'd like to show you. And the first one is, let me just put this on the left right here, there we go. One of the first things that are also coming from Pest V2 really big is the new -- retry option that quickly allows you to retry failed tests. I don't know about you, but I work with big test suites, and the most annoying thing on the planet is that when you run like a big test suite that takes like 5 minutes, and suddenly you have 10 tests failing. If it is one test, you can just rerun that test with PHP Storm, but sometimes it's like 10 tests. It's just really annoying to have to rerun the entire thing again. It would be really cool if we had this way of simply running the failed tests. That's exactly what we are bringing to Pest. Let me show you how it works. So, I'm gonna get back into my post controller right here, and I'm gonna revert this new DD function, global function. And again, as you may know, this test will fail thanks to the architectural plugin. Now, check this out. We have the global test here on the 4th position of my test suite, okay? So I'm gonna run pest again, and of course, I expect pest to fail because now we have the global test failing thanks to architectural test. Now, with this new retry option, check what happens. I'm gonna just clear my terminal, run past, but now with the dash retry option, and I suddenly get to see the global test being run on the first place. So really allows me to be focused only on the failures. And if I just keep going, it keeps failing, all in the first test. I can get back into my DD, just fix the problem, clear my terminal, get back to my pest with the retry option, and something really interesting happens here. As you can see, the global test, which was previously failing, is now running first. And then pest understands, well, the guy probably fixed the problem. I can just move forward and I get to see the entire test suite. So it's a really quality of life improvement that I think you would really like. At least I'm already using it and it's pretty cool. So let's clear the terminal and move to other stuff. Again, we get back to this topic of having big test suites. So something we are bringing now to Pest V2 as well is this brand new option called a dash compact, which is a brand new printer for minimalists. Because when you work with big test suites, now the printer that comes with Pest, we kind of agree that it's pretty, right? If I run Pest like this printer is very pretty, in my opinion, when the outcome is successful and I have not that many tests. Now, if you have 800 tests, for example, you don't really care about a beautiful printer. You just want something simple that just displays the progress in the most simple way as possible, and then it's really focused on failures. And that's exactly what we are bringing for Pest V2. So what you can do now with Pest V2, you just clear the terminal, run Pest with this new option, dash compact, and we get to see a printer that previously might look a little bit like PHPUnit, but gives you this really nice output, space on top, bottom, left, and right, really focus on the progress. And if I have a failure, which I'm gonna just put again our whole DD here, I can clear my terminal and I get to see that my printer is really focused just on the failure. I get to see just one line of progress, and then after that, everything is just failure. So really focused on what people really care. And if you are a person that would like to see this happening always by default, something you can do is just go back here into my Pest PHP configuration file. It's basically a file that ships with all the Pest PHP installations, and I can do something just like this. Uses the compact printer to be used by default forever. I can clear my terminal, remove the dash compact option, and now the printer just gets used by default, okay? So really focus on the failures. So a new dash compact printer coming for Pest PHP. Let's make my test pass once more by removing the GD. Have my test suite up and running. And let's move to one of our final features coming for Pest V2, which is the new dash profile option, which allows you to optimize your test suite with ease. You probably have seen this feature coming from Laravel 10, right? There is a reason for it. It's because Pest and Laravel, we work tight together. We actually have this solid foundation that we share, so we can have these features on the Pest PHP runner, but also on the PHP artisan test command. Now, let's talk a little bit about this new feature coming for Pest V2. The dash profile option, it's really an option that exists for big test suites. Because big test suites, I don't know about you, but just become slow over time. Even with parallel testing, which was first introduced by Pest, also these big test suites just become slow. So it wouldn't be cool if we had a way of having Pest telling us, oh, this test is slow, and you need to optimize it to make our test suite fast. So that's exactly what this option is doing. So let me show you how it looks like. I'm gonna get back into my terminal, and you guys remember this post test that we have at the beginning of the talk? I'm gonna intentionally make this test slow, so I'm gonna add a sleep of 5 seconds here, okay? So remember, this test is actually being run twice, the first time with Laracon India and the second time with Laracon US, meaning that this entire test together, because it's not optimized, will take approximately 10 seconds. So I'm gonna run this test on my terminal but this time with my option dash dash profile. Now check this out. Pest will run, will show you the progress, will take forever, but then something really cool happens, is that with the dash dash profile option, we get to see the profiling information of my test suite. So I have now the top 10 slowing tests of my test suite, really being displayed here on the terminal, so it's not complicated, not on the browser, really just right here for an awesome experience. So what I get to see here is the top 10 slowest tests on my application. I can also understand just by looking at this that the post test, which is right here in front of me, each run of this test is taking exactly 5 seconds. So something I can do is just understand, well, if those two tests combined are taking 10 seconds, and my entire test suite is taking exactly 11 seconds, something I can do is just basically optimize this test. So I can go back here, just remove the sleep, optimize this test, go back to my terminal, run pest with a profile option, and now I just optimized my test suite to be 10 times faster with the help of this new dash dash profile information. Thank you. Now, I hope you guys are excited about Pest V2 as I am. Now, about the Pest V2 release date, that's what everyone wants to know. I have good and bad news. The bad news is that we are actually not shipping Pest V2 in February. The good news, though, is that there is a reason for it, and a very good reason. We are now currently actively working on the new Pest V2 website, which looks gorgeous. Just looks like this. Exactly. It looks gorgeous. I want the Pest V2 website, both the landing page and the documentation, which is being fully rewritten at the moment. Even Taylor will help me a little bit on it. I want it to be the best documentation in the world regarding testing. So that's what I'm aiming for Pest V2. Thank you so much for having me, India. I'm having the best time of my life. Thank you so much.